found the one. Now it's time to find the other one. That's the wedding dress we're talking about. You've probably pictured yourself in this amazing white dress walking down the aisle dozens of times, but the question is, how do you find the dress that is the one? Today, we're super excited to have Michelle Miller and Lindsey Principi of Maddison South in Charleston with us. These two ladies have more than 20 years of combined experience in helping brides find their perfect wedding dress. After several years of helping brides single-handedly, they joined forces to create the most unforgettable experiences for brides while shopping for their gown. Both Michelle and Lindsey are buyers and managers at Maddison South, and that combined experience has allowed them to be able to find a gown for every bride, making sure it's perfect for their big day. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having us.
We're excited to be here. Yeah, I love that it's the two of you and you've combined efforts because, you know, two can be sometimes so much better than one, right? And you guys have so much experience. So you guys are the perfect people to tell our listeners all about finding the dress. So before we dive in, we have a bunch of questions for you guys. Tell us a little bit about what makes Maddison South different than other bridal shops.
Let me take this. I think first and foremost is the service that we provide. I think we really stand out for that, as well as the selection and quality of the gowns that we have to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it makes such a difference. I don't think, you know, it can be so overwhelming for girls when they come in to look for their dresses, like where to even begin. So having that service level really helps you guys to stand out for sure. Plus, you guys have a brand new shop, right? And it's beautiful.
We were in an old historic house in downtown Charleston. It's one of a kind. Brides have can have the whole store to themselves, and they have private fitting rooms, so they're not disturbed by other clients, and it doesn't take away from their experience.
That's awesome.
A way for brides to be really comfortable when finding their dress.
That's great. So we have, I'm sure, tons of questions, but you know, how do you guys, before we even dive into our questions, like how do you guys even like pick the dresses? How do you decide like what are these styles? Like tell us a little bit about your process of, you know, behind the scenes before we talk about what it's going to be like for the brides.
Sure. You want to take this?
We're going to take turns. Go ahead. You go first.
After being in the industry for a while and working with brides, hearing what they want is really important. So when we go to New York to do the buying and bring that high fashion back to Charleston, we're really focusing on what our brides have told us that they want. We have great relationships with all the designers that we work with as well, so they listen to us. So we really try and pick gowns, not just for one specific bride, but keep in mind that there's a gown for everyone.
And I think our store really tends to be more classic and traditional, but bridal is all about the details. So we're looking for things that we can customize all the time to make one-of-a-kind gowns, as well as just little details that make them stand out.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like the details really make a dress, just the little things that you probably don't even think about until you start looking for a gown and you're like, wow, this is so cool. Well, that's perfect. And that's a great kind of segue for us to kind of dive in. So before you even pick your dress, you know, obviously you have to have an appointment. You guys were mentioning you come in, you have a customized experience. So you call, you book your appointment. Like, what do you do next between like the time you booked the appointment and when you actually show up to try on dresses?
So I think it's really important when you set your appointment, before you go into your appointment, to set your budget. You don't want to try on dresses that are out of your price range, and then you're always comparing to that gown, or you just can't have that gown and you're never happy. You want to pick a select group of people who you really, really trust and to understand that this is about you and your day, and you really respect their opinion. And then have some ideas about what you want in your gown, but be open-minded as well.
I think doing your research is really important. Like look on Pinterest, look around a little bit, bring some images in, have an idea in your mind of details and silhouettes that you like, just so you have a starting point is good.
That's a great tip. And I mean, when you're looking online, there's so many different styles and details like we were talking about. How do you narrow down your inspiration, or do you not need to? Is that really the point of the appointment?
I think it happens pretty fast when you're trying on, because oftentimes things that you saw on a model or in a photograph don't necessarily work for you, or you try on a style that you thought you loved and always wanted, and then you realize that it's heavy or hard to move in. And so it narrows down pretty quickly as soon as you start getting yourself in the gowns.
I agree.
And I think that's a good point too, is sometimes people come in with like a set idea, and maybe they should keep in mind, like an open mind somewhat, that I feel like a lot of times people think they want one style of dress and then end up with something totally different. So you never know what you're going to end up with.
All the time. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, for me too. And I see when my brides, go to try on dresses, we see their inspiration on the front end, and then, they send me a picture after, I found the dress, and it's like completely different. And it's so funny because you don't know until you try it on, right?
It's so hard to know. And that's why the trying on process needs to be really fun, because you just don't know what you're looking for. And it feels intimidating before brides come in, I think. Mm-hmm. But what we really try to do is make it fun, make it an experience.
And trust us. We know what the gown looks like on a body. It might not look great on a hanger, but that's why we're here. We're here to listen to you and to help you and to guide you.
Yeah, that's great. And how many times are you guys trying on those dresses? Guilty, right? You got to know what they look like on the body, like you said. So before the appointment, what do you recommend people bring with them to the appointment, as far as accessories and undergarments and things like that? What should people keep in mind?
So keep in mind that at most salons, and especially ours, we keep our dresses very clean. We like to help brides in and out of the dresses, so we will be in the fitting room with you. We understand that everyone's level of modesty is different. So a lot of times we'll have you undressed down to your underwear. We usually suggest a seamless nude pair of underwear, or if you're more comfortable in Spanx, have your Spanx ready to go. Most of our gowns have built-in bust cups, but if you're more comfortable in a strapless bra, we definitely recommend that.
It really is what's most comfortable for the bride, because that's the main thing, is we want you to feel comfortable while we're helping you.
Of course.
We've seen it all, so it doesn't bother us.
Everything.
I'm sure you guys could probably write a book.
One day.
But what about shoes? Do they need to bring shoes with them, or is that something you guys have, most salons have in-house?
If you want to bring shoes, you can. It's not necessary, but
it
always helps.
We do have a couple of pairs of shoes here as well for people.
It's probably too early in the process to really have your shoes at that point. I don't know though. Sometimes people pick everything based around shoes, which is my kind of girl. All right, so now it's time to come to the appointment. What should you expect as far as your appointment goes? How long will it take for starters?
We allow an hour and a half to 2 hours for our appointments, and just depending on if we're starting at ground zero and bride has never tried on, we very well may take up the whole 2 hours. But if somebody really knows what they're looking for, it can be a lot quicker than that. So you definitely want to allow time. You don't want to be rushed or stressed.
Yes, and eat beforehand.
Don't pass out.
Eat beforehand.
Don't be a hangry bride.
Exactly. No, it's true. And it's a lot of work trying on these big, heavy dresses. So I don't think people realize that.
And you would be surprised how many people don't eat beforehand because they don't want to be bloated or feel full or whatever. And then they do get lightheaded. Yeah. So make sure you come nourished, ready to go. Yes.
I love it. So how do you decide who should come with you, and how big of an impact does that make on the appointment time, like you were talking about?
Huge impact.
Yeah, a huge. What you really want to focus on, what we tell brides, is pick 3 to 4 of the most important people. Our salon specifically is designed to be very intimate, very close. So you don't want to feel cramped. You don't want opinions of people that you don't truly trust. Obviously, you want to try and bring whoever's buying the gown.
Their opinion really matters, right?
But, keep it to your closest friends or family. Too many opinions can just make this not a fun experience.
It really ruins it for the bride more than anybody. You want to be able to hear yourself think, and you want to be able to really trust your instincts versus just having a lot of noise.
Yeah. How do you, so obviously, you want to bring that person who's paying for the dress but like, how do you decide? Like, is it just, your mom and sister because you're kind of obligated, or, how do you pick like whose opinion matters for your dress? Like, in your opinion?
I feel like most of our brides come in twice, and maybe they'll come the first time with a group of friends and get friends' opinions, and they'll narrow things down, and then they'll come back with their mom and their sister to buy. And then they've kind of covered all their bases.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
I like that a lot, because it can get overwhelming listening to so many opinions. Another thing that can get overwhelming is how many dresses do you try on? Especially like you walk into a bridal shop and you're like, I love everything. Like, I need these dresses. I remember when I was looking for my dress, I brought my really good friend with me, and we were like hugging dresses, like we loved them. So how do you pick which one to try on, and how many do you try on?
Sure. So we do a consultation with all of our brides when they come into their appointment. We get a feel for exactly what neckline, what silhouette, what embellishments they may want on their gown, and of course the price point they want to stay in. Behind us, we have our gown gallery, actually. So Michelle and I know our inventory very well, and we know what custom changes we can do to gowns. So we like to walk our brides through the gown gallery and choose about 8 to 10 dresses and really guide them based on what they've told us their style is that they're looking for. Like I said, we start with maybe 8 to 10. We narrow it down once we're in a fitting, and we know our inventory so well that we're able to go back and pull gowns. I think it's really important that the bride picks her dresses as opposed to having the guests that are with her pick their dress, because they tend to forget that it's not their wedding dress they're picking, it's the bride's wedding dress.
Yeah. Yes, and it's so tiring for the brides when they've got all their friends picking different dresses, and then they're trying on things they would never actually want to wear. It just exhausts them, and then they're too tired to really focus on finding the actual dress.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to manage everyone. You want to make everybody happy, so you got to remember to make yourself happy, because it's your dress, and you're going to see those pictures for so many years, right? And I think that was a great piece of advice too, to trust your stylist. And like you said, you guys know your inventory the best, so you can make such good recommendations, and you're gonna know what looks gonna look best on them. So I think that's a great tip for all of our listeners. Which leads me to my next question. So let's say I know that I love a certain style. I'm a strapless girl, and that's how it's gonna be. Do I really need to try on other styles, or do you just stick with what I think I'm gonna like the best?
I think it depends. I think sometimes it's good to try on something that's completely different from what you want, because if nothing else, that really confirms that in fact you are a strapless girl. And sometimes just putting something on with straps will help you realize, like, okay, now I did it. I know for sure I'm a strapless girl. I don't need to look at anything else. Just for that confirmation.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And then what if you're on the fence? Like, you're not ready to commit quite yet. Maybe you like one or two. Like, how do you, what do you recommend for brides in that situation?
Michelle and I both have the same outlook on this. We're not a pressure team. We really feel like our brides need to walk away, because it's an important decision. So walk away, sleep on it for a day or two or a week. We both think that you'll start envisioning yourself walking down the aisle in one of the gowns that you've narrowed down to. Once you feel like you've come to your decision, come back in and retry on those dresses that are on the top tier of what you're wanting, and it will come to you.
There usually is one or the other that you just can't stop thinking about, and you start to really envision yourself in, and that's your answer. And we just don't want any of our brides to ever have buyer's remorse. So there is no pressure. They need to be in love with that gown completely,
150%.
Or we're not letting them buy it.
No.
I love that, because it's hard, especially I feel like after you buy your dress, then you see, dresses everywhere. So you want them to be like you said earlier, confirmation that they love their dress, as opposed to like, oh man, I should have bought the other one. So what about size? It's not a fun thing to talk about, sometimes, but especially bridal sizes run a little different than regular sizes. How do you know what size to order? What if you're trying to lose weight? How does that work?
That's one of the great things about the designers that we carry in our store, is all of the gowns are custom made. brides usually fall into a certain size on the designer size chart, but if they don't fall perfectly into the size chart, then our designers will custom make the dresses made to measure for them.
That's great.
So it's really nice. And then if somebody is on a workout program, a lot of our designers will offer a mid-measure. So before they do the final cut on the dress, we can remeasure the brides if they've been working out really hard for a couple of months, and we can then submit the new measurements, and they'll get that gown just even a little bit closer to what their size is turning out to be. And then of course, we offer in-house alterations for all of our gowns. So every time the gowns come in, we always need to do a little bit of fitting just to perfect everything.
That's like a good, just like a random question I have for you guys then too. Like at what point do girls need to, you know, all brides, I feel like, try to lose weight before their wedding, right? They don't need to, but they try to. So like when the dress comes in and they're doing alterations, like what is that kind of that point where you're like, okay, we can't do any more alterations. Like this is, you know, you need to stop losing weight. This is the size you're going to be for the wedding. Like what point do you kind of advise your brides on that?
That's a great question. I think, and I tell all of our brides this, be at your goal weight 8 weeks out from your wedding date and be ready to maintain that. That's typically when we start your fittings, 6 to 8 weeks before either portraits or your wedding. Just try and maintain that goal weight at that point. We do several fittings, and Michelle and I are very big on doing a final fitting the week before your wedding. You know, sometimes you just can't control your stress, and we want to make sure that gown fits perfect for when you walk down the aisle. So we do a final fitting the week before, but really set your goal weight about 6 to 8 weeks out from your wedding date.
There is this interesting bridal adrenaline that kicks in. And even when brides think they're maintaining, they're doing everything they can. I don't know what it is, whether it's just anxiety, running around, or whatever, but even dropping or gaining weight can make a difference. So we perfect everything right before.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's perfect. And I mean, you bought the gown and you looked beautiful in it then, so you don't have to. But, you know, a lot of brides, like as they get closer, I think that's a great point. So we talked about kind of what to expect. How about trends? Like, let's talk about what people are seeing out there in, you know, trend world. So what are some of the trends that you guys see that are coming up, and what are some of the things that are fading out a little bit?
There's some crazy trends right now.
A lot of sheerness is going on.
Okay.
We've had a lot of influence from other countries that might not be as modest as we are, and especially Israeli designers, I think. We have a lot of sheer. So it's a sheer illusion, basically covering your bust and is with a cup. So it gives the illusion that you're nude underneath. Would you say that's kind of
we're seeing a
what
lot
we're
of that.
seeing a lot of?
We don't embrace a lot of really trendy things here. We're much more classic. We like to embrace trends like the bow trend is very big right now, and that can be done in a million different ways, like very vogue, very traditional, very classy. So we really love to embrace those trends.
Yes, classic trends.
Yes, but there are definitely some trends out there that are just not our aesthetic.
What about trends that you're seeing that are starting to, you know, become less popular, you know, overall, and then also for the more classic bride that you guys service?
Michelle and I have talked about this, and we think all over lace might be on the way out.
Okay. I feel like that's crazy because it's been around for so long, right?
So I think it's softened up a bit. Like the really strong mermaid look, maybe not as much, but maybe all over lace, but in a softer way, is more romantic way is coming in.
That's cool. If it's not going to be lace, what do you guys think is going to be the next, you know, fabric style that people are kind of embracing besides the illusion? If you're not into the illusion.
I think that texture is really becoming more popular. And then just your simple silks.
Crepe too.
Crepe as
Crepe
well.
is huge right now.
Yeah, the same thing for bridesmaids. So I love that. What if you're a bride who likes, you know, trendier looks? Do you go with a trendy style? Do you go with something more traditional? I know you guys service more traditional, you know, couples.
We do, but we have very trendy stuff as well. We're still cool.
I agree. I'm a classic girl, so I agree.
You can
make your look really cool by adding trendy pieces, but not necessarily in your gown. Like you can add a really trendy sash. You can do something trendy with your veil.
Great earrings.
You can do a lot of
All
things
about
to
how you
be
style.
very modern and hip for the times right now, but not regret your look 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
I think it's all about the styling.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great advice. You do want to look back and love your dress just as much 20 years now as, at the time. So that's a good piece of advice. And I think when you're looking at dresses, making sure that it's something that's really you with those tips you guys were giving us earlier. And you're not just taking advice from other people. So you're not looking back later like, what was I thinking? So what styles and looks do you think are the most timeless so you don't look back and think, what was I thinking then?
Ooh. I think anything with a bateau neckline is very classic and beautiful, very, since Audrey Hepburn and Princess Grace. Anything with a nice train on it is just beautiful. It's really all about the fit, the cut and the fit, the quality of the fabric, which makes a gown timeless. Yeah, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So make sure you take time for alterations, it sounds like, after the wedding, after you get your dress in. That's perfect. Well, great. Well, before we kind of close out here, I'd love for you to give our listeners kind of your top 1 or 2 tips, that they should take away when they're starting to think about dress shopping and getting into the dress shopping process.
Michelle and I have discussed this, and I think one thing we agreed upon is don't become overwhelmed. There is a dress out there for you. There's a dress out there for everyone. Make your experience fun instead of stressful. And some simple ways to do that are to think about your budget going into your appointment, to pick people that you really trust when going into your appointment, and have some ideas of what you think you may want. Have fun.
And I think also consider your venue where you're getting married. If you're getting married in a ballroom versus a plantation or on the beach, kind of consider that, where you're going to be and how you want to be on your wedding day. Are you a dancer? Do you want to eat? Are you just planning on posing a lot? Some people don't care if they can't sit down. Other people really want to be able to break it down. So you want to make sure that you're really considering your personality and how you want to be on your day so that you can have a great time.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, because I think sometimes people forget about that when they're shopping. So that's a great tip. Well, perfect. Well, besides Bustld, tell us where our listeners can find you.
Good. We are MaddisonRowSouth.com on the internet and Maddison Row South on Instagram. Perfect. That is probably the best way. We can you can book right online on our website, which is great, or call us anytime.
Give us a ring.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for giving us these amazing tips today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.